Yeah. Rollo Jenkins, boxologist, Zone 6, Dre, BT Pound, 78 Fight News, Blood Boxing, Blood Fists, Boxing Beats and Rhymes, Female Boxing Fan, Carter J, Pull Counter, Joker Boxing, D Styles, the whole YTBC.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's up, man? You know what I'm saying? We about to get straight to work, man, because I know you guys are busy. This is going to be a thorough breakdown of the heavyweight title lineage. This is a masterpiece that I'm working on, a project that is overdue. I hit my 10-year mark in YouTube coming up in June, and it's just time. You guys seen me do all facets on YouTube, and it's time for me to go ahead and put in that work and become credible like the great YouTubers that we all know and put together a historical piece. I believe you guys are going to like this. And without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get to cooking. All right. So let me go ahead and bring up the presentation. I'm going to leave and I'm going to come back and we're going to recap and we're going to have a good conversation about this presentation. So this is not me talking at you guys. This is me talking with you guys. And I want you guys to understand how I work and how I move. This is me combing through research. This is interactive. So you're welcome to contest the information in it and explore yourself. So without further ado, let's bring up the presentation and let's go ahead and do it like that. All right, we're just checking and balancing some things out. All right, let's get to it. Just checking some things. All right. I think we in here. Let's give everybody a second. Get you some water. I'm looking at my levels and checking my levels. And we finna get ready to talk. You go ahead and hide this for me. All right. All right, guys. I see you. I see you in here. Share the link if you can. Let me do that real quick so everybody get an opportunity because once I start cooking, I'm going to start to cook. All right. All right. So first off, man, let's talk about the bloodline and the history of the belts. First off, we got to ask ourselves this question. and kind of comb through this thought process. We always ask, like, hey, man, does the belt matter? Is there duckage in the belt? Who's the true champion? What is the champion? Back in the day, these guys fought everybody. It was consolidation. It was undisputed. And we got new boxers that belt hop. But let's go ahead and comb through it and get down to the meat and potatoes of this, right? So you obviously have the standing WBA championship. Okay, that is one. The second one is the WBC title, the green belt. And you have the current WBO sanctioning body, and you had the IBF. So you got 4 major sanctioning bodies and a slew of minor titles. So let's move on to the London Prize ring rules. First off, your boy Jack Broughton, 1736 to 1750 English heavyweight bare knuckle champion. All right, so this guy, Jack Broughton, is credited with setting the rules of the London Prize ring rules. And this is a set of boxing rules that was kind of in play August the 16th, 1743. So we're back into the 1700s. If you look at this picture here, this is a picture of Jack, you know what I'm saying, well-known heavyweight champion of the world on the bare knuckle side of the house. We're talking about prior to gloves existing. We're talking about straight up bare knuckle, fist fighting, get it how you live, scrappy guys, okay? He kind of is credited. He's not the only bare knuckle champion. We're going to comb through all that. But he's the one who is credited with setting up some type of rules and regulations and some type of order in order to throw these hands as the heavyweight champion of the world. Because before there was gloves, we were fighting bare knuckle, okay? And there was a championship established. The London Prize ring rules, there are 29 of them, but I got 3 of them listed here so we can comb through this together and make this all make sense. First of all, the London Prize ring rules was drafted 1734 and in play in 1838 and revised in 1853. So I want to read this, and this is very, very important because we're going to also not just give you guys a history lesson, but we're going to make it make sense for the current time in boxing, and hopefully we can answer a couple of questions as well as we go through this about the current state of boxing, especially the heavyweight division specifically is what we're talking about. Okay, so rule number 1 under the London Prize ring rules. This is 3 of 29. I just got these 3 so you could get a picture of what was taking place and what was happening. So let me read rule number 1. That the ring shall be made on turf and shall be 4 and 20 feet square, formed of 8 stakes and ropes, the latter extending in double lines, the uppermost line, 4 feet from the ground, and the lower 2 feet from the ground. All right? Good stuff. What we're doing here to make it make sense is that they're establishing in the London Prize ring rules a specific location in which they should fight a specific area. Okay, so this is not normal to boxing. This is the first understanding and agreement of a ring and what we come to know as the squared circle. All right, so let's move on to number 2, London Prize ring rules number 2. That each man shall be attended to the ring by a second and a bottle holder, the former provided with a sponge and the latter with a bottle of water. That the combatants on shaking hands shall retire until the second of each has tossed for choice of position, which adjusted, the winner shall choose his corner according to the state of the wind or sun and conduct his man thereto, the loser taking the opposite corner. So what they're saying is, okay, once we arrive, right, we want to fight. And this is kind of taking the place of what we know as the ring ceremony. You know, we got the red corner, the blue corner, you got the announcements, you got the reading of the records, you got guys, you know, designated in a corner. But what was happening in the early stages is they've already established that you got your corner man. They've already established that ring 2 established a corner man within this ring, within this square circle. So, for instance, a champion, let's say we're going to use Bloodline as an example. When he comes in, he's walking in, he got his opponent that he's going to face. Both are accompanied by a bottle holder and a sponge guy. So you got two guys in the corner for, medical purposes or some relief purposes. And then what happens is they go to a ring and they would do kind of like familiar and similar to football. They would do a coin toss. So it says down in here, second of each have tossed for choice of position, which adjusted, meaning that once they have came to a result or a conclusion of the coin toss, then the winner shall choose the corner on the state of the wind or sun. Remember that's kind of what we're used to today in football, just to use a parallel or example. So this has always been something in sports history. And what you do is you win and you say, hey, man, I'm going to choose this side because I want the wind to my back. I'm going to choose this side because, hey, I want the wind in my face. Or you can say, hey, I want to choose this side because I want the sun to my back or the sun to my face, just depending on your preference. Okay. And we're talking about outside venues here. All right. So moving on to London Prize Ring rule number 3 of 29. This is 3 of 29. That each man, now this one is good right here. This is where we get to the belts and get to the establishments of the belts and a prize. That each man shall be provided with a handkerchief of colors, okay, suitable to his own fancy. That means the guy's coming in with his choice of flag. You know what I'm saying? Flag, red, blue, black, green, whatever it is that you choose, okay? And that the second proceed to entwine these handkerchiefs or your flag at the upper end of one of the center stakes. Okay, that these handkerchiefs shall be called the colors. Okay, so whatever that is, whatever that looked like to you in your mind, you would tie it up, and that will be where you establish after choosing which corner or being chosen for you. So we already understand that the winner of the coin toss get to pick his corner. So both gentlemen retire to it. They put a flag or handkerchief at the top of their uppermost stake in a ring that we've already established that is, it is what it is. It's outside. It's going down because we're not talking about venues. We're talking about rings. We're not even at the spot of venues yet. Okay, that these handkerchiefs shall be called the colors. So you will hang your colors, and that the winner of the battle at its conclusion shall be entitled to their possessions as the trophy of victory. So this is where we get prize fighting from London Prize Ring rules. So the prize, or as the trophy of victory, is whatever you have at the end, entitled to their possessions. So this is nothing new. This is something solid. That's a tradition in boxing. And this has always been a situation in a scenario in which we're familiar with within boxing. All right. So the other set of rules that is in opposition to the first set of the London Prize Ring rules are the Marquess of Queensberry rules, drafted in 1865, published in 1867. Okay, so John Douglas IX, Marquess of Queensberry, he's the one who is credited. My gentleman over here, he's credited with lending the name to the rules, right? We've seen this sometime in history where a guy, he says, man, you know what? I'm going to petition because I don't like the rules. I think we need to make an adjustment. I think we need to be innovative. So John Douglas ended up saying, hey, look, let's just call it this. Okay, let's call it this. And John Graham, he is a sports administrator. So John Graham Chambers was just John Graham. He is credited with actually publishing, drafting, and kind of writing the rules on what the Marquess of Queensberry rules look like. So let's go ahead and understand what the Marquess of Queensberry rules are. Okay, one rule is, let's say this: to be fair, stand-up boxing match in a 24-foot ring or as near that size as practical. Okay, number 2, no wrestling allowed. Okay, we just randomly pick some of these and stuff like that. Okay, the gloves to be fair size boxing gloves of the best quality and new. Okay, Rule 6, no seconds or any other person should be allowed in the ring during the rounds. So you'll have these controversies and these issues where sometimes the corner man may jump into the ring, and that should kind of technically be a natural and normal disqualification. It says here, right here in Rule 6, most of us are familiar with these rules. Okay, no second or any other person to be allowed in the ring during the rounds. Obviously, we don't want any outside interference. But here's one that is very, very clear and interesting that gives us a lot of room for debate. And we're going to refer to modern times with the Tyson Fury and the Deontay Wilder fight. Because we're not just going to stay on old school stuff. We're in the 1700s and we're going to come up to a certain point. So let's talk about rule number 4. Rule number 4. If either man falls through weakness or otherwise, he must get up unassisted. The boxer has 10 seconds to allow him to do so. Okay, they speaking of the other boxer. Say, hey, man, you knocked him down or he collapsed. He's on the canvas. In the case of Deontay Wilder, let's paint this picture. It was him hitting Tyson Fury with a punch. Tyson Fury hits the deck. One of the major controversies that I'm finna solve today and present this case to you right now, to solve that, is finna be in this rule in its entirety, and we're gonna break it down. Okay. The other man, meanwhile, to return to his corner. And when the fallen man is on his legs, the round is to be resumed and continue until the 3 minutes have expired. If one man fails to come to the scratch, basically come back to his feet, in the 10 count allowed, it shall be in the power of the referee to give his award in favor of the other man. So most people will say that the boxer, here we go again, he must get up unassisted. The boxer has 10 seconds to allow him to do so. So one of the biggest controversies is, hey, man, it's 10 seconds. It's 10 seconds. And most of us are going to say, no, it's 10 count. But most would then come back and say, hey, man, no, it says 10 seconds. You guys are capping. You guys are making up things. You know what? But let's do the research. So when they say the boxer has 10 seconds, let's go do the documentation to beat all conversation. We're not going to misinterpret this or allow this to be interpreted. We're going to read the rules as follows. This is the documentation. The boxer has 10 seconds to allow himself to do so. Let's let that sink in. So at surface value, according to rule number 4, Deontay Wilder possibly or could have been denied a victory based on rule number 4 of the Marquess of Queensberry rules. But let's dig a little deeper and find out what else can we find, because maybe that is the case. Maybe it's not, but let's find out. The boxer has 10 seconds. So now we got to find out what that means. Okay, so Marquess of Queensberry rules. Is a 10 count 10 seconds? Is a 10 count 10 seconds? Let's read. The referee counts in approximated seconds in their head. Okay, now we understand that approximated is not exact. So immediately what stands out is that is a 10 count 10 seconds. The referee counts in approximated seconds in their head. In practice, this leads to variations in the number of actual seconds in the count. But in nearly all cases, it's perfectly acceptable as an approximation. Okay? So it is not 10 seconds, it is a 10 count. And they go further into explaining what the referee obligations are and duties and descriptions are per the policy per rule number 4 or the Marquess of Queensberry's rules. So therefore, Wilder did get a fair shake. Tyson Fury did get a fair shake. But let's read and find out any other caveats. Okay, a particular fast or slow count can lead to controversy and the perception of unfairness to either boxer. All right? It says a particular fast or slow count can lead to controversy and the perception of unfairness to either boxer. The Queensberry rules state that it should be 10 seconds, but this is hard to do in practice. Stopwatches are not used, and the referee judgment is final. Okay, so when it comes down to a recent heavyweight classic bout, the trilogy between, your boy Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, that was a justifiable, although the outcome was a draw. Both guys didn't really gain any ground out of that. The whole conversation about Deontay Wilder being cheated and the count process is laid out in the rules thoroughly and is fully described in the Marcus of Queensberry rules that they fight under and that we're currently under as a jurisdiction and as protocol and policies and procedures. Okay? Now that you guys got that, let's get into a little bit of the bloodline of the belts. So now that we have a foundation set with the rules and regulations, let's go ahead and keep cooking. All right. The first belt was given as a prize in 1810 by King George III to bare-knuckle boxer Tom Cribb after he defeated Tom Mellenew. All right, so if you look at this, Tom Cribb is highlighted in gold, just so you guys can kind of understand, to make it easy to follow. I'm giving you the legend. This is the champion of the outcome of the particular fight. This would be the challenger and loser of the title fight in red. So I will consistently have gold for the champion, and I will have red for the challenger. These are photos, classic paintings, because we got to understand that these guys didn't have cameras and cell phones and things of that nature. So this is a painting, okay, of Tom Cribb, and this is a painting of Tom Mellenew and Tom Cribb. All right. So, but the key is this: King George III, okay, to bare-knuckle boxer Tom Cribb after he defeated Tom Mellenew. The first belt was given in 1810 as a prize. Now, keep in mind, guys, we already understand it in bare-knuckle boxing that you already get a purse. The purse is to be tied within the colors. After the fight has concluded, you collect the belongings as a prize or a trophy. But this is something entirely different. This is actually a belt outside of what you attain from the colors, from your flag that you hang in your respective corners. All right? Tom Cribb, English heavyweight bare-knuckle boxing champion. Okay, Tom Cribb was considered to be All England. A play on words is similar to when we say All American. High school students or professional athletes in America, we refer to them as All American. Tom Cribb was considered to be All England. Okay, Tom Cribb was the English heavyweight bare-knuckle champion, 1808 to 1822. Tom Cribb crowned with a belt in 1810. So although Tom Cribb was boxing, as a champion and considered to be the champion in 1808, he didn't get official belt until 1810. Although 1808, 1809, he was collecting his purses and his trophies from the colors after winning a match, he was officially crowned by King George with an official belt in 1810. So now what we got to do, now it's time to follow the bloodline. So now this is the first champion recorded on record that we have access to. So what happens next? Tom Mellenew was crowned United States heavyweight bare-knuckle champion. Tom Mellenew was an ex-slave born in Virginia that traveled abroad to England in search of bare-knuckle fights, recognized as the United States heavyweight bare-knuckle champion 1810 to 1815. So what essentially happened is Tom fought. Melanu ended up losing, which crowned Tom Crib as the England heavyweight champion, bare knuckle champion. And then he did so well, Tom Melanu was considered and given a belt as well on the American side. So England has a heavyweight bare knuckle champion, and the United States have a heavyweight bare knuckle champion. Okay, now that's where we're going to start breaking down and looking at the belt. So now we have two champions reigning. Okay, and let's continue to see what happens. United States heavyweight bare knuckle champion. When you look up here, you got Tom Melanu. This is the United States version of the heavyweight bare knuckle champion. Tom Melanu. Okay, all the way down to a familiar name, John L. Sullivan. These are the names that are covered. These are the champion. You know, Jimmy Elliott, just to name one. Tom Allen, Jim Mace. Remember some of these names, okay? Patty Ryan and John L. Sullivan. Currently, bare knuckle boxing is back. You got the current bare knuckle champion of the BKFC, Alan Bleacher. He kind of resembles a John L. Sullivan type of guy. This has been back since 2015. Okay, you know, this a good established heavyweight champion bout, and this guy was usurped by Alan Bleacher here, bare knuckle champion. And you guys get an understanding of the ring. If you look at the ring right here, it's encircled in nature, not square. So this describes the definition in the London Prize ring rules about what a bare knuckle ring should look like. Okay, it is circular in nature. All right, and that's where you would go to one of your corners and you would hang your colors. Because obviously, if you look at their ring as opposed to a square ring, it is kind of harder to kind of distinguish what could be your corner as opposed to what's not. You want to get adjacent to each other as possible, but that may have changed or could change based on it being an outside type of venue. The wind and the sun might play factors in that. Obviously, we have boxing matches, whether it be bare knuckles or conventional boxing, inside venues now. But we've also seen it where they've been outside. This is nothing new. We've seen this. All right, English and United States bare knuckle champions. Now let's get down to some consolidation and let's talk about John L. Sullivan and why John L. Sullivan should be respected. And let's talk about what he actually did and why people call out his name so much. Okay, so when we get down to it, Jim Mace, 1866 to 1871, English champion. That English belt for the bare knuckle heavyweight championship was dissolved and outlawed because it was deemed illegal. So that bloodline that was started by Tom Crib and King George III was dissolved ultimately because it was outlawed. So that knocks off Jim Mace. Okay, that concludes that bloodline. So what does that leave us with? That leaves us still with the Tom Melanu bloodline. Okay, so what happens on the United States side of the house? Patty Ryan ultimately ends up becoming the champion. Okay, 1880 to 1882, and he was defeated by John L. Sullivan. United States champion merged into the world champion. What do I mean by that? John L. Sullivan, 1882 to 1889. On February the 7th, 1882, he defeated Patty Ryan via the London Prize rules to take his bare knuckle championship. Okay, and Mace's had been dissolved. So technically, John L. is undisputed. But let's say, hold on, what else did he do? Let's continue. August the 29th, 1885, he defeated Dominique McCaffrey and won the inaugural world heavyweight title under the Marquess of Queensberry rules. John L. Sullivan became undisputed because the English version of bare knuckle title championship had been dissolved due to legal issues. Patty Ryan continued the tradition on the United States side of the house, under the bare knuckle. John L. Sullivan beats him, takes the heavyweight championship of the world, and then he defeats Dominic McCaffrey to win the world title that we're closely more familiar with and under the rules that we're more closely aligned with and familiar with, which is the Marquess of Queensberry rules. So now we got an undisputed champion, known with the handlebar mustache, known to say, "I licking this son of a bitch in here," the man who put boxing on the map, the man who was whooping ass from Timbuktu to Kalamazoo, United States, England, the man who was whooping that ass all across the board, John L. Sullivan, the founding father of boxing. But however, here's where we start to get some breakdown. Here's where personality starts to affect the lineage of the bloodline of the belt. Right now, currently, we're sitting here with a champion that can be considered undisputed by most. But let's make sure and let's comb through the evidence to see exactly what it is. So, John L. Sullivan pulls a move that is not as popular as we would think. Okay? Some people, are not as forgiving for him drawing the color line. Some people kind of have an understanding of it. And my position is no position currently, because we got to comb through the slide and I will give you my opinion about the process. He drew the color line. That means that bare knuckle champion boxing John L. Sullivan, fought black fighters on the way up, but would not defend the title against black men. All right? So we got that covered. We understand that. Now, let's look at some of the world champions. And let's continue the lineage in the bloodline on after the color line has been drawn. Because remember, the color line is drawn at this point. We're going to do several timelines here, so I want you to keep up with me and follow. Okay, because I know there could be questions right now, like, hold on, but it's something. Just hold your horses. We're going to comb through several lineages, several legacies to make it all make sense at the end. So now we have a color line drawn. John L. Sullivan is essentially could be considered to be ducking colored fighters or black fighters, as it states here, because he would not defend against them. So, continuing the color line, world heavyweight champions, because now it is established. Let's go back one more time. August the 29th, 1885. We're in the 80s. We're talking 1800s, so we're talking the 80s. I want to make this kind of clear. I want you to parallel it to when you was in the 80s or where you was at in the 80s. Use 19 as a parallel. So, 85, he won the inaugural world heavyweight title under the Marquess of Queensberry rules. He draws the color line. These world heavyweight champions, we're no longer talking about bare knuckle. John L. Sullivan is considered the man and can be considered undisputed so far. So now we're looking at where the title progresses through and what happens. We're on the world heavyweight champions now. So this is for the world heavyweight championship. But essentially, what they're saying without saying it is that in this current moment, it is actually not a world heavyweight champion. It is essentially a white world heavyweight championship. But let's see what happens. This is technically what we're saying here. If you're drawing the color line and you refuse to defend against black fighters. But however, let's continue. Okay, James J. Corbett, September the 7th, 1892, March 17, 1897, he defeats John L. Sullivan. Okay. Bob Fitzsimmons, March the 17th through 1887, June the 9th, 1899, he defeats James J. Corbett. Now, these guys right here, what I like about these two is both of these guys came up together. And you got to understand something about the timeline of John L. Sullivan. Let me give you some justice and perspective on John L. Sullivan. John L. Sullivan, we're talking 1800s, he ran the 80s. he ran the 80s from 79 to 92. So I want you to get in your mind. I want you to think about the 1900s in which we exist. Think about it, because I was born in 1984. Okay, just think about this. This man, John L. Sullivan, cleaned up the heavyweight division and ran it pretty much from 79, okay, to 92. So think about having a world champion from the 80s who dominated through the entire 80s into the early 90s. Think about that for a second. Let that sink in, man. Like, these guys are not getting enough credit for the work they put in. True enough, he drew the color line, and we're going to cook on that. But this man, John L. Sullivan, for some people, that's all the champion they knew from the 80s. From the 80s. And from 85 until 92, he was the world heavyweight champion, not to exclude his bare knuckle heavyweight championship that he consolidated from the American side. So 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 90, motherfucking 2. 7-year reign until James J. stopped it. While, you got to understand this as well too, while John L. is running the 80s, James and Bob, they come in, Bob Fitzsimmons, they come in 85. They start their career 85. And they become two new premier boxers, young, hungry, in the division, heavyweight, trying to pursue a world title. Bob Simmons is not necessarily a career heavyweight, but we're going to go ahead and stay with the heavyweight. Bob Fitzsimmons, March the 17th, 1887, June the 9th, 1899, defeat James J. Corbett. So the heavyweight championship, or the world heavyweight championship, passes hands. Bob Fitzsimmons, James J. Jeffrey, okay, June the 9th, 1899 through May the 13th, 1905, defeats Bob Fitzsimmons. Jeffries ultimately retires. So you got John L. Sullivan, who's running the 80s. You got James J. Corbett, who's running the 90s into the early 90s until the end of the 90s. So we're talking about we're talking about the 1800s. We're talking about 92 to 97. Bob Fitzsimmons get in there. You know, he get his reign in there for a little bit, and he's doing his thing, right? This is crazy right here. You know what I'm saying? So now let's go ahead and let's look at other world heavyweight champions as we comb through this. Marvin Hart, July the 3rd, 1905, February 23rd, 1906, he defeats Jack Root. Because there's a retirement that takes place, right? James J. Jeffries, he takes place, right? He retires. This here should be a 9. Don't get it twisted. That should be a correction. Let's correct that while we're here. That should be a 9-7. I know that off the top of my head because I've done research now, and I can even pick out some of the mistakes. But this should be 9-7 because he defeated him in 9-7, and he had a 2-year reign. Okay, stop that. Let's continue. All right. So Marvin Hart, because we got to find out who's the new champion because James J. Jeffrey retires, right? So now we're on Marvin Hart. Okay, he beats Jack Root. Jack Root was defeated by Marvin Hart July the 3rd, 1905 for the vacant title. All right. Then, of course, we move on. Tommy Burns, a.k.a. Noah Russo, wins it. And he, February 23rd, 1906, December 26th, 1908, defeat Marvin Hart. Now, while this is all taking place, okay, keep in mind now, we're talking about 1885, but this world colored heavyweight championship established in 1876 by Charles C. Smith. So let's think about this. Now, this colored heavyweight championship was established in the 70s, and John L. didn't really get going to 79 and really start cooking until the 80s. This was already established. So let's look at some of the notable world colored heavyweight championship. So there's an argument that the color line had already been drawn before John L. Sullivan won the world heavyweight championship. All right? Does that make sense? Because a world colored heavyweight championship was established in 1876. That's well before John L. Sullivan became the inaugural world champion that we come to know. That's that. So that's a question that should be posed. Did John L. Sullivan draw the color line, and what effects did it truly have on boxing? If the colors or the black guys over here have their own belt established before the inaugural World Heavyweight Championship, and they established this in the 70s, then surely there's something to be contested. So then we got to go back to the statement that I said earlier. Was John L. Sullivan undisputed? He drew the color line, and he would not fight colored champions. And there had already been a colored heavyweight champion established in the 70s prior to his reign as world heavyweight champion. Interesting. Notable champions. Jack Johnson, February the 5th, 1903. Okay? 17 defenses. Sam Langford, September the 6th, 1910, 5-time colored heavyweight champion. Larry Gaines, August the 15th, 1928, the last colored heavyweight champion. So these three guys, this is pretty much the most notable, or one of the most notable, black heavyweight champions of the world. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to slow down on using black and color, because there's something else that you guys got to understand. And you guys got to understand something else. So I'm going to say colored. We're going to stop interchanging black, because we got 3 colored heavyweight champions here. As a template, as an example, Jack Johnson, 17 defenses. Sam Langford, 5-time colored heavyweight champion of the world. Larry Gaines, the last colored heavyweight champion of the world. And the first, Charles C. Smith, established in 1876. Now, guys, guess what? This is why I say I got to stop interchanging them, because there's actually a black heavyweight championship. There's actually a black heavyweight championship. So now we have the world championship. We have the colored heavyweight championship, and we have the black heavyweight championship. So we've been had alphabet soup. So we got 3 claims to the heavyweight championship of the world. And with the color line being drawn, that makes more sense. So we're sitting on 3 heavyweight world titles, with the bare knuckle heavyweight championship being dissolved and consumed and absorbed by John L. Sullivan, making him technically unified and giving the lineage and passing it along through a slew of great white fighters. But let's see what happens. Got a colored heavyweight championship that was established before the World Heavyweight Championship, and now we have black heavyweight champions, specifically saying black heavyweight champions. Klondike Hayes, my man, May the 8th, 1899, black heavyweight world champion. Frank Childs, August the 11th, 1899, black heavyweight world champion. January the 29th, 1898, he was the color heavyweight world champion. Frank Childs is the only man that's documented in history to hold the colored championship and the black championship, making him somewhat of an anomaly. Okay, somebody special in history. Remember the name Frank Childs? He held both belts, similar to how John L. Sullivan consolidated the U.S. Heavyweight Bare Knuckle Championship. Is similar to what Frank Childs did with the Black Heavyweight Championship and the Colored Heavyweight Championship. All right? Jack Johnson. This is going to be a good one. Jack Johnson captured the World Heavyweight title from Tommy Burns on December the 6th, 1908. Jack Johnson reigned December 26, 1908, April 5th, 1915, 6 years and 4 months. Jack Johnson wins the world heavyweight title from Tommy Burns on December 26th. We talking about 1908. Keep in mind, James J. Jeffries retired in 1904 to establish a new lineage of heavyweight champions, which leads all the way down to Tommy Burns, as we covered already. Jack Johnson defeats Tommy Burns. Okay? Jack Johnson reign is from December the 26th to 1908, April the 5th, 1915, 6 years and 4 months. Remember these dates if you can. Okay? Here's a card to show that. It is what it is. Burns Johnson fight. This is what the advertisement looked like. Jack Johnson did decide to upheld the color line and refused to defend against black fighters. This was an unpopular move. Most people kind of did not feel that move against the other black fighters, and it was a specific set of fighters in particular that he should have defended against based on the community, colored folks and black folks, and he upheld the color line by refusing to defend against black fighters. Okay, some of those fighters. Now here's an argument. I'm going to present something to you as we cook, and I want you guys to tell me what your opinion is and what your thought process is. Colored heavyweight champions. Okay, we're going into colored heavyweight champions again. Some of the notable champions in this next wave of heavyweight colored black murderers row. Joe Jeanette, April the 17th, 1909. Harry Wills, May the 1st, 1914. Another one, January the 3rd, 1916. And then finally, April the 14th, 1918. 25 title defenses. Remember this. This is going to come back. Harry Wells is going to come back. Sam McVeigh, big, strong, powerful heavyweight at the time. Joe Jeanette was known for his endurance and his heart, and similar to kind of like Holyfield, he just was relentless and he would not stop and he would come back. Harry Wills was considered to be a very balanced heavyweight champion of the world. Sam McVeigh was considered to be a very big, strong, powerful one of the three. Those are the three different type of styles and these three different attributes that these guys possess. Sam McVeigh, February 20, 1909, December 26, 1911. Okay? So, but here's the thing. Jack Johnson did draw the color line. Or he didn't draw it, but he upheld it. But the truth of the matter is he had already beat Joe Jeanette, Sam McVeigh, and he had beat Sam Langford. And he had beat Klondike Hayes and Ed Denver Williams. So Jack Johnson, essentially, before getting the title in 08, late 08, he had already beat these guys outside of Harry Wells. He beat these guys, okay? So most people felt like he had already cleaned out the colored side of the heavyweight champions, and he was moving on to clean out what would be considered the white heavyweight champions. But we're calling it the World Heavyweight Championship. And it does signify this at this point because a black man is in possession of it by the name of Jack Johnson. But it was considered for him to be ducking because he would not fight most of these guys in a rematch, except Harry Wills, who he did not fight. But Joe Jeanette, he had defeated. Sam Langford, he had beat. Sam McVeigh, he had beat. Frank Childs, he had beat. And numerous of other black fighters. Ed Denver Williams, he had beat. So he had already cleaned up the division by most people. Klondike Hayes, he had beat. So most people consider him making the rounds and him being deserving of possibly maybe being able to uphold the color line, but would you consider that a duck? Let's continue and let's find out. All right. Now that Jack Johnson has defeated Tommy Burns, and now that the black man holds the title, they just go ahead and say, you know what? This is what we're blatantly going to do. After 4 years of Jack Johnson whooping ass, okay, putting people to sleep, beating on everybody, you know, they say, man, you know what? Let's just do this. World White Heavyweight Champions. We're just going to go ahead and just leave the World Heavyweight title alone. We're just going to create our own space. So now we got a World White Heavyweight Championship in existence. Okay? Luther McCarthy, January 1st, 1913. Now, it's a tragic situation with Luther because Luther actually is killed in the ring by Arthur Pelkey. Arthur Pelkey is here on the campus. So McCarthy loses to Pelkey, transferring the White Heavyweight Championship of the world to Pelkey. And Pelkey kind of wasn't considered the same fighter by most because he had killed McCarthy. He had been drained of his resources. But most people say it's because McCarthy had a previous existing injury that was untreated. But the credit for his death and possible ring injuries are attributed to Arthur Pelkey. They say Pelkey was kind of down on his luck, you know, drained the money, not the same fighter after killing McCarthy in the ring. And he just came in not in his prime, and he faced the big old strong Gunboat Smith. Gunboat Smith is one of these guys that's not a slouch. Of the white heavyweight champions, he was considered one of the strongest, one of the most brutal heavyweights of his time. If you even see him here in this still photo, I mean, the guy looked like he's in incredible shape. He looked like an absolute monster. And he destroys Gunboat Smith. All right. But however, there's the rise of Georges Carpentier, July the 16th, 1914. All right. Now remember Georges, because Georges is going to play a big role in the future of the heavyweight championship saga with the bloodline of these belts. So you guys got to be mindful of some of these names. Just bear with me and stay with me and keep mind. You might even want to take some notes. But don't worry, I got you. Your boy Zone6 got you. This is what we're going to do. Active titles as of January 15th, January 1st. Now I picked January the 1st, 1915 because we finna get a big shakeup. We're going to get a big shakeup and things are going to change from here. Let's talk about the active titles. And let's talk about alphabet soup and how this can be questions for who's truly undisputed. See, this has been going on since the 1900s, the 1800s, the 1700s. Who is the best? Is the best fighting the best? Is there some cracks and chinks of these guys' armor? Well, we know not necessarily Jack Johnson because Jack Johnson cleaned out all the colored champions. Okay, Harry Wells was not necessarily in play once Jack Johnson had left the division, so we can't put that on him. All right, so world heavyweight champion Jack Johnson, world colored heavyweight champion Sam Langford. Sam Langford had defeated Frank Childs for the black heavyweight championship. So you have Sam Langford at the vacation of Jack Johnson for the World Heavyweight Championship, who's currently the reigning champion at this current date, 1915, January the 1st, which is still an active title in the hands of Jack Johnson. The World Colored Heavyweight Championship is an active title. Sam Langford has it since Jack Johnson had vacated. The Black Heavyweight Championship belonged to Sam Langford because he consolidated against Frank Childs when he beat him. So technically speaking, Sam Langford is the unified champion of the four standing belts. The World White Heavyweight Champion at this time is Georges Carpentier. All right. So we sitting here on four champions. Well, four belts, but three champions. All right. So let's move along and let's see how this transpire and see what's going on. Keep in mind, we ain't even at the WBA, the WBC, the IBF, and the WBO. We'll do them things later, but we got a lot to comb through, and it's going to pick up. Let's keep it moving. Guess what? The rise of the New York State Athletic Commission, NYSAC. Okay, here goes somebody else want to get a piece of the pot, right? The New York State Athletic Commission was founded in 1911. This was the first year the legalization of prize fighting. 1917, the Farley Law was repealed and the New York State Athletic Commission was disbanded. What does that mean? What is the Farley Law? Okay, we start talking about legalization, kind of similar to what happened with the English bare knuckle heavyweight championship. It just sometimes the government get in place. Now, just so you guys can know, we're talking about at a time in the United States where states' rights are states' rights. So different states get to do anything that they kind of want to do as long as it doesn't violate the Constitution of the United States. So we're giving a little history here. New York is a state within, obviously, the United States of America. And based on state rights, Nevada or New York can legalize boxing and prize fighting, but Georgia, Florida, or Mississippi may not. That's just how the United States work. So we have to create commissions. So you get the rise of the New York State Athletic Commission, and then you get the disbandment of it based on the Farley Law was repealed and the New York State Athletic Commission was disbanded. But hold on. The powers that be won't let that last too long. 1920, the Walker Law reestablished legal boxing in the state of New York. Rules to ensure safety of combatants and reduce roughness were placed into law via the commission. So what they had to do is they had to kind of sit down and revamp their laws and see what was going on and come up with something else. Now, this is 1911, 1917, 1920. This is a process. Meanwhile, this process is taking place. We've already established that Jack Johnson is a reigning champion, Sam Langford is a reigning champion, and Carpentier is a reigning champion, while the New York State Athletic Commission come into play. Okay, so let's keep on going. Some of the rules from the New York State Athletic Commission. New rules. Limited matches to 15 rounds. A physician must be in attendance. Restricted certain aggressive acts, headbutting, creating, and they also had to create a regulatory commission. All right, Joe Willing and Johnny Dundee, the first match under these rules. It was the first match under these rules. So the New York State Athletic Commission had a successful bout with Joe Willing and Johnny Dundee. That was their first match under the rules. Let's go ahead. After that, let's get down to some active titles. Let's see what's going on with the titles and the bloodline and the lineage of the belts. The Black Heavyweight Championship becomes extinct. Sam Langford claims the Color Championship. So he basically absorbs the Black Heavyweight Championship into the colored one. So now we're reduced down. We already understood what we said about Sam Langford holding. Not he didn't actually hold both. He just absorbed both, because it's already established that Frank Childs is the only one to actually hold both Black Heavyweight Championship and the Colored Heavyweight Championship. Sam Langford beat him for the claim, but it was unofficial, so it was absorbed, okay, into one, which is the Colored Championship. Okay, so he didn't officially hold it, but we had to list what was active and what happened. And here's the result, what happened with the Black Heavyweight Championship when Sam Langford claimed the Colored Championship. The White Heavyweight Championship was dissolved when Jess Willard beat Jack Johnson. Because the white guy said, well, shit, we got the belt back now. We can go ahead and dissolve that. Okay, the World Heavyweight Championship was merged. This is the World Heavyweight Championship merged into the NBA, the National Boxing Association, who was paired with the New York State Athletic Commission in the rise of the ring title. The World Colored Championship was still active. So now we're down to this. We got the World Heavyweight Championship of the world, Jess Willard, okay? The World Colored Championship active. All right. The white championship was dissolved when Jess Willard beat Jack Johnson. So goddamn, some people left out here, and we got to figure out what's going on. So we still got alphabet soup. Okay, so we got to figure out what's going on. We got some more major players coming in. We got the NBA, which will be converted into the WBA as we know it. And then we got the New York State Athletic Commission. Now we talking about fights in New York, and then we got a ring title. Okay, so we got some titles coming about. Okay, but we did get rid of the black heavyweight championship, and we did get rid of the white heavyweight championship. Okay, so let's see what takes place and how this all works, because we're talking about if the white heavyweight championship was dissolved, what happened to Georges Carpentier? Okay, let's see. The rise of the Manasseh Marler, Jack Dempsey. Most of us know who Jack Dempsey is. Okay, he ran boxing pretty much in the 20s at the heavyweight division. So let's go ahead and cook. Jack Dempsey defeat Jess Willard by stoppage in 3, July the 4th, 1919 for the world heavyweight title. Okay. Jess Willard defeated by Jack Dempsey by stoppage in 3, July the 4th, 1919 for the world heavyweight title. So Jess Willard beat Jack Johnson. Jack Dempsey defeats Jess Willard. Now, I want you to understand something about Jess Willard. Jess Willard won the title, okay, against Jack Johnson. And what he decided to do, he had one defense in 1916, and then he held it for like 3 years up into 1919, and then he got, ran down on by Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey held it down, and he stopped him in 3. And then the NBA championship, New York State Athletic Commission in the ring titles. What then happened, remember that dissolving of the white heavyweight championship that Georges Carpentier had and held? Jack Dempsey goes back and says, okay, Georges Carpentier, I'll stop you in 4, July the 2nd, 1921. So Jack Dempsey absorbs the former world championship for the white guys into his own, making him the NBA champion, National Boxing Association champion, and the New York State Athletic Commission champion with the ring title. And he just defeated the former white heavyweight world champion of the world, therefore completing that cycle. So what do we got next? This is what we got. The WBA, the World Boxing Association, WBA, not NBA, WBA, World Boxing Association, and we have the NBA, National Boxing Association. These are two different things, okay? All right? 1921, the NBA was founded in the United States. 1962, the name was changed due to the world recognition. That's going to be later. Recognized by the International Boxing Hall of Fame. First sanctioned bout, Jack Dempsey versus Georges Carpentier. Jack Dempsey versus Georges Carpentier was the first bout to seat women in great numbers. Jack Dempsey was kind of like an A-side hot throb at the time. And it was the first fight to produce $1 million in revenue. So this is when we start to see the rise of the purses and the lucrative opportunities within boxing. Undisputed colored heavyweight championship, April the 14th, 1918. Now keep in mind, Sam Langford has already absorbed the black heavyweight championship and merged it into the color heavyweight championship. We get the rise of a new champion, Harry Wells. He defeats Sam Langford via KO in 6. Sam Langford defeated by Harry Wells via KO in the 6. Okay, so now we have the rise of a new dominant champion on the colored heavyweight championship side of the house. Now here's where we have a problem. So we got active titles right now. The NBA, New York State Athletic Commission, and the ring. Those belong to Jack Dempsey. July the 4th, 1919 through September 23rd, 1926, 7 years and 7 months. We'll get to why he has ended and how it ended. Okay. World Color Championship. That belongs to Harry Wills. World Color Championship, April 14th, 1918, October the 12th, 1926, 8 years and 6 months. These two guys were supposed to be fighting. These two guys was reigning at the same time. So you could argue was Jack Dempsey or Harry Wills, was either one of these guys undisputed. We have two champions sitting out there right now. We have the colored champion, which is legitimate, and we have Jack Dempsey, the NBA champion. This is awesome. These two guys never fought. Unfortunately, this was a high-profile fight that was considered. This is one of the times where we get a fight not happening. Jack Dempsey has already proven to you guys that he's the A-side. He's produced $1 million gate. He was traveling the world with his women and his wife and stuff like that. He was a guy who was considered to be notable, well-known through the 20s, and he's regarded as one of the greatest heavyweight champions of all time. And so is Harry Wills. Harry Wills is the colored champion, and he reigned for 8 years and 6 months, and the fight never took place. This is an example of a fight that we never got. So now we're finna get to some cleanup. The bloodline of the belts. Right now as it stands, we got the NBA, okay, National Boxing Association, and the New York State Athletic Commission and the ring champion, Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey loses to Gene Tooney. We get Gene Tooney retire, Max Schmeling pick up the belt. Jack Sharkey pick up the belt. Primo Carnera pick up the belt. Max Baer pick up the belt. And then James J. Broderick, the Cinderella Man, picks up the belt. And that is from the lineage of Jack Dempsey all the way down to James J. Broderick, the Cinderella Man. Now, on the World Colored Championship side of the house, because Jack and Wells never fought each other. So we got two champions sitting out there. So Wills, George Godfrey, Larry Gaines, George Godfrey, Obie Walker, and Larry Gaines. That's the last champion that we had for the colored championship. These two guys never fought each other. But let's look at the new undisputed world champion of the world. The colored title, what happened to this title? The colored title became extinct after Joe Louis won the heavyweight title on June the 22nd, 1937. Because, see, Jack Dempsey had the 20s, okay, up until he ran into Gene Tooney. Gene Tooney took the late 20s, and then in the 30s, the early to mid 30s, you got hot potato with the world championship. You also get some hot potato over here with the World Colored Championship because Wells and Dempsey did not consolidate and fight. So in comes Joe Louis, okay, beat James J. Braddock, fair and square. And then once he done that, it made the World Colored Championship extinct the same way kind of how when Jess Willard beat Jack Johnson. It made the World Heavyweight White Champion title extinct because they had a white guy holding the title. Same thing here. Joe Louis go in and beat Braddock, and then he makes this title lineage irrelevant. So what are we left with essentially? What we're essentially left with is the rise of the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis. So in conclusion, that will be where I start off part 2 with the consolidation of the heavyweight championship of the world. He consolidated it. It is in practice. There is no one that can dispute it. You have the presentation, you have the information, you have the lineage of the belts and how we get all the way down to the rise of the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis. And what we will do is we will pick up in part 2. And then we're going to continue from Joe Louis. And we're going to do a little backdating because I got to give you the understanding of the rise of the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis, all the way into the rise of a heavyweight triad or the heavyweight Holy Trinity. And it ain't going to be what you think it is. We're going to keep on cooking and we're going to do it like that. All right. So that concludes that presentation there. Let me get a little bit volume. All right. Stop sharing the screen. All right. So we finna cook a little bit. All right. So with the understanding of that, let's get to some of these comments. And we're gonna do this right here. All right. So at the end of the day, when we look at some of the top heavyweights in the world, I'm gonna say this. This is my new top 5, based on the information that I found, based on the lineage of the belts. What I have come to the realization, based on the research that I got, my top 5 from this particular era is going to be Jack Johnson is number 1. John L. Sullivan is number 2. I got Harry Wills is number 3. I got Sam Langford is number 4. And I got Jack Dempsey is number 5. Jack Dempsey is number 5. Sam Langford is number 4. Number 3 Harry Wills. And I got number 2 as John L. Sullivan. And I got number 1 as Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson is a monster. Jack Johnson came in, he beat James J. Jeffrey, he beat Bob Fitzsimmons, he beat Sam McVeigh, Joe Jeanette, Sam Langford, Klondike Hayes, Frank Childs, Ed Denver Williams, Stanley Ketchum, he beat Tommy Burns, Philadelphia Jack O'Brien. This dude, this shit is crazy. Jack Johnson is a fucking monster. An absolute monster. When you look at this guy's resume, it is stupid. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, God damn. And this was so fucked up about it. He fought these guys multiple times. Can you imagine if Tyson Fury was to have fought Wilder, AJ, Andy Ruiz, Usyk, Joe Joyce, Dillian White, Daniel Dubois, Klitschko, Parker. That's just 9. Jack Johnson again. Listen, that's just 9. And that's just 9. He ain't even done it. Jack Johnson fought Sam McVeigh, Joe Jeanette, Sam Langford, Ed Denver Williams, Klondike Hayes. He beat Frank Childs, Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, Bob Fitzsimmons, James J. Jeffries, Stanley Ketchum. That is crazy. That is a crazy run. Okay? That is a crazy run. And he did that on the colored side and as well as the World Heavyweight Championship side. So he had cleaned out all the black fighters with 17 defenses. And then he came back and did a second run where he got your James J. Jeffries, your Stanley Ketchum, your Tommy Burns. Those are 11 names off the top that are historically great. Jack Dempsey had a great run as well too. Jack Dempsey owned the 20s. Owned the 20s. I'm talking about completely just dominated the 20s. And Mike Tyson is a person, when I get to that one, that's going to be in the third part. I'm on this first part now. The third part is going to attribute some Jack Dempsey to the rise of Mike Tyson. But right now we're going to be on the era of the rise of Joe Louis and the introduction of gold medals in amateur pedigree and how that plays a role. Okay? But those are the bloodline of the heavyweight championships in the belts. John L. Sullivan is a lot more prestigious than what I thought. John L. Sullivan, although he and Jack Johnson drew the color line, Jack Johnson cleaned out the colored side. That's not even a. If he drew the color line, he drew the color line. And if you want to say that he didn't give these guys a shot once he won the World Heavyweight Championship, well, he beat them when he was the color champion, and even some before that. Okay, so he did his due diligence. He covered all the bases. His resume is impeccable. Probably, actually, when you think about it, it may be the greatest heavyweight championship run in history. He may have the greatest legacy claim as heavyweight. But we gotta see, we gotta find out. But those are my top 5. Each video, I'm gonna give you a top 5. I got 5 of these to do, so I'm gonna probably end with a top 25, and then I'm going to rank them at the conclusion of the bloodline of the belts. Okay? So you gotta ask yourself, what the hell are we really getting here in this days and era? What are we trying to do when we push these guys to the limit? What are we doing? Okay? What are we doing? So I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed the work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to conclude this one, and I'm going to leave it, and I'll be back in a couple of days on Thursday. I got a lot of big shit to talk on Thursday. I just want this video to marinate, and I want it to sit. I don't want to touch anything for a few days. I'm going to start going to work on project part 2, and I'll be around on other people's channel. I can talk and connect on that. But I had to get this presentation off. It was fun. I learned a lot. It was intriguing. John L. Sullivan was the biggest surprise to me with the consolidation of the Bare Knuckles Championship and becoming that undisputed guy. But however, a nuance and a jewel that I discovered was the color championship had already existed before John L. Sullivan drew the color line. 1876. We're talking about in the 1800s all the way up until Joe Louis to the late 30s. And that's not including the Jack Broughton rules, the Queensberry rules, the London prize fighting rules. I mean, this shit is awesome. You know what I'm saying? This shit is awesome, and I had a very good time doing it. I got 5 parts coming, like I explained to you guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully we can get the views up on it. Hopefully it's a good presentation. It was time for me to present something and do something. And then this is the after. This is overtime. This is championship round because I did it a lot faster than I suspected. So some of the things that I like about doing this project and doing this work, Jack Johnson is a fucking monster, man. I'm so goddamn blown back by how much of a monster this guy is. It is crazy. When I get to the other, I can almost start to argue, and I'm gonna calm down and relax because the research was so fucking fun. It was so fucking fun. Man, it is so humbling. I see what Blood and the boxing librarian and those guys are talking about. This is so humbling. I had no idea that John L. Sullivan was that much of a dog, regardless of race. I did not know. I did not know that Jack Dempsey, I had an idea, but when you start looking at it in the consolidation of George Carpentier, I never knew that there was a worldwide heavyweight championship of the world. I didn't know that. I thought, if you guys knew it, you knew it. I did not know that shit. I did not know who Pelkey was and Gunboat Smith. I've seen their names, but I did not know those guys was white world heavyweight champions of the world. I always knew about the Carpentier fight with Jack Dempsey. Most of us do know that. But I had no idea that he had held a title. Had no idea. That was something new. I was like, whoa, what the hell? What is this? So I learned something new during the presentation. So my learning points and my takeaway from it is I did not know that there was a white world heavyweight champion. And I didn't even know. I like the story of McCarthy too. Arthur McCarthy, he got killed. You see what I'm saying? I didn't. Shit. Pelkey. Those are Gunboat Smith. I like finding out about him and the contribution of Carpentier. And Carpentier got beat by Jack Dempsey, making him whole. But I did also. I can say this. The takeaway is the white heavyweight world championship. I also got a newfound respect for John L. Sullivan and his contributions to the game of boxing. Jack Johnson is going to be a hard one to beat. I can't wait to look at Joe Louis and Muhammad Ali a little bit closer, but Jack Johnson might be the greatest heavyweight of all time. It's looking pretty goddamn good for Jack Johnson. Okay, Sam Langford is a very solid guy. Harry Wills, man, that goddamn, listen, them 25, them title defenses that he had, Harry Wills is stupid. It is stupid and it's crazy. So, we'll leave it at that. We'll conclude it. You know what I'm saying? 1 hour and 20 minutes, and we'll just leave it where it's at. What we'll do is we'll just go look at it one more time, just to look at some. Let me do this. We'll just look at the slides one more time, just to recap. Okay. Okay, one more time. Break it down. Give me just one more time, y'all, just to look at it. Let me go back to the slideshow. All right, let's just go through this again, man. Let's just look at some of these guys, man.
Listen, I told you give them something visual, so you in the head and made your own YouTube.
But that was a good run right there. Corbett, Fitzsimmons, Jeffries.
Put them in your comment section right below.
That was a good one.
While you're sitting in your living room, Pacquiao, Mayweather, and we came
Frank Childs, Klondike Hayes, Jack Johnson, Joe Jeanette, Harry Wills. 25 title defenses. That's crazy. 25 title defenses. God damn. I said Arthur earlier. I meant to say Luther McCarthy, and it's Arthur Pelkey. This story here of him, dying and being killed by Pelkey, and that story was something that was interesting to me as well too. Okay, and then we know what happened to Georges and how this got dissolved. Did not know there was a white heavyweight championship of the world. All right. And then the rise of the New York State Athletic Commission was fun, and the rules that they set in place. And then the rise of Jack Dempsey. All right. We'll leave it there. Stop sharing. It is what it is. So, I don't want to step over it by doing too much talking. I'm going to go ahead and conclude here. And I want to wish you guys farewell. Okay, this is the heavyweight boxing, the bloodline and history of the belts. Zone 6, I'm out.
Break it down. Give me 5 people you're ready to fight right now.
Timothy Bradley.